Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, who transformed Britain and inspired conservatives around the world by radically rolling back the state during her 11 years in power, died today following a stroke at the age of 87. Britain's only woman Prime Minister, the unyielding, outspoken Thatcher, led the Conservatives to 3 election victories, governing from 1979 to 1990, the longest continuous period in office by a British Premier since the early 19th century. Sarah Farris-Glob has more details in this report.
Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, was a towering figure in British 20th century politics, a grocer's daughter with a steely resolve who was loved and loathed in equal measures as she crushed the unions and privatised vast swaths of industry. She died, aged 87, after suffering a stroke. During her life in politics, some worshipped her as a modernizer who transformed the country, others bitterly accused her of entrenching the divide between the rich and the poor.
Well, today is a truly sad day for our country. We've lost a great Prime Minister, a great leader, a great Britain. As our first woman Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher succeeded against all the odds. And the real thing about Margaret Thatcher is that she didn't just lead our country, she saved our country. And I believe she'll go down as the greatest British peacetime Prime Minister. Today is obviously a day we should most of all think of her family. We've lost someone great in public life, but they've lost a much-loved mother and grandmother, and we should think of them today.
To those who opposed her, she was blunt to a degree. Others who crossed her path, particularly in Europe, were subjected to withering discourses. Britain's only woman Prime Minister, the tough, outspoken Thatcher, led the Conservatives to 3 election victories, governing from 1979 to 1990, the longest continuous period in office by a British Prime Minister since the early 19th century. In Kuwait, Thatcher was well known for her historic and honourable stance during the Iraqi invasion in 1990, including her pivotal role in bringing together an international coalition of more than 30 countries in support of the liberation of Kuwait, which will always be remembered with great admiration and gratitude from the Kuwaiti people and the world. Thatcher played a vital part in mobilizing international support for the liberation of Kuwait. George H.W. Bush, former U.S. President, was crucially encouraged by Thatcher and started to prepare for possible military action to free Kuwait. On August 6th, both Thatcher and Bush had led the UN Security Council to pass Resolution 661, which placed economic sanctions on Iraq and also authorized forces in the event Iraq did not retreat. By January 15, 2001, Iraq refused to retreat and the massive operation of Operation Desert Storm started the counter-invasion of Iraqi-occupied Kuwait by 500,000 American troops and allies from Britain, the 6 GCC states, and 34 other nations. The woman, who became known simply as Maggie, transferred big chunks of the economy from state hands into private ownership, promoted competition, and gave birth to a political philosophy known as Thatcherism. She suffered a series of mild strokes in late 2001 and 2002, after which she cut back on public appearances and later cancelled her speaking schedule. She will not have a state funeral, but will be accorded the same status as Princess Diana and the Queen Mother. The ceremony, with full military honours, will take place at London's St Paul's Cathedral.